Hello and welcome to the Pit Mix podcast. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you find yourself tuning into today's episode. This episode is pretty special as I'm finally acting on the name of the podcast. For a podcast that is called the Pit Mix, there's been a lack of variety covered so far. So in today's episode, we are going to be talking about Damien Chazelle's Whiplash. We're finally not making another episode on music, we're finally focusing on another piece of media. Now, this movie released in 2014, I've only recently gotten around to watching it, and it was one of the best decisions I've made so far of this year. If I had to describe the movie in 3 words, I'd simply put it as blood, sweat and tears. So Whiplash follows the story of a very passionate, ambitious drummer called Andrew, who is then taken under the wing sort of by this very narcissistic, controlling and honestly quite terrifying music instructor by the name of Terence Fletcher, who is played by J.K. Simmons and Andrew is played by Miles Teller. Now, this movie made me feel several emotions, the primary one being fear. The movie does a really good job at emphasizing the terror that Terence Fletcher inflicts upon his students, and I really felt that whilst watching this movie. You know, with each playground quip he throws out there, I laughed. I thought J.K. Simmons was very good at delivering his lines, but you know, when he's aggressive and all in the student's face, I genuinely felt that fear too. And I guess where my fear in this movie resided the most wasn't actually from J.K. Simmons' performance, it was more in what will Andrew's character do next. Because as I said, he's very passionate and ambitious, and it's this same passion and ambition that sort of drives him insane almost. And in that sense, you really are made to pity him. Yet, by the end that somewhat changes, but we'll get onto that in the latter of this episode. So the whole first half, or 3/4 even, of this movie sort of build up to Andrew's big breaking point. You know, you see a lot of intense scenes of him drumming, him working all these endless hours. In a sense, I admire the passion, but then I'm just watching in horror as he just sort of tumbles, he spirals out of control. He sort of gets rid of his personal life, disregards his girlfriend, he gets aggravated by his family too easily. And so like I said, it builds up to his breaking point, which is where he gets hit by a truck. Now, like any normal person, he doesn't go to a hospital after getting hit by a truck. That would obviously be bizarre. No, instead he strives forward, he goes ahead and he tries to perform for Terence Fletcher's little band group. I forgot the specific name, but give me a break. And he's there covered in blood and sweat and tears, as I'd summarise the movie, and he tries to play the drums but he fails, and that's when Terence Fletcher, he's done. Andrew doesn't get any more second chances, he's out, and Andrew just lunges at him, and that's where the movie starts to sort of settle down, I guess. Andrew gets a break, he doesn't have all this, relentless pressure on him. But the first half, 3/4 of the movie definitely had me sweating quite a bit. I had my towel by my side. But J.K. Simmons and Miles Teller really deserve their flowers for this performance. It is absolutely amazing. The emotion that they convey so effortlessly is just beyond me. And of course this is helped by Damien Chazelle's directing choices, which I kind of like. The movie's almost sort of like yellowish in scenes. There's like a repeating colour scheme of like green, yellow and brown. Of course that's an exception when Andrew's bleeding out on the screen. And then you have the choice of shots, so you have those sort of lower shots when Andrew's playing the drums. I found really interesting because all you see is him playing and you just see his face, he's scrunching it up, there's always sweat, he's always giving it his all. And like I said, you really do see the emotion conveyed and the passion that this character has. And then of course when Terence Fletcher is being his usual narcissistic self, shouting at his students and whatnot, you sort of have a lower angle where it sort of feels like he's towering over you as well. But J.K. Simmons in this is absolutely amazing. I want to say it's probably his best movie, but then again, the only 2 films aside from this that I've seen him in is Juno and of course the Spider-Man trilogy with Tobey Maguire. And the ending of this movie is one I really want to focus on. Of course I don't have a special reading of this, it's probably the same as someone else. The ending, they both sort of get what they want. I do question was it all worth it for Andrew? So obviously Terence Fletcher is quite tough on his students, as we see, and there's a little bar scene which sort of summarizes why he's so tough on his students, and I think it's a really great quote. There's no two words more harmful in the English language than good job, to sort of justify his actions, even though when you're watching you just realize he's just an awful human being. So all Terence Fletcher wants to see is his students achieving, doing that good job. And there's a really powerful moment in these final few scenes where Andrew and Terence sort of exchange a brief smile. You don't see Terence Fletcher smile, which I think is really smart, because as he says, there are no two words more harmful than good job. And so hiding that smile sort of, reinforces that, which is really nice. And all Andrew wants is to be the Charlie Parker of his generation, as he says. He wants to be one of the greats. He wants to be remembered. And most of all, he wants Fletcher's approval. Before he can get the world's approval, he really needs Fletcher's. And that's what he gets. But once you've watched this movie and the credits roll, you do question, was it all worth it just for that sense of approval? You see Andrew go through hell and back just to get here. And I guess there is a sort of him winning in the fact that he has control over this final performance. He says he'll count Fletcher in and he doesn't, which, it's a really cool ending. Just him drumming, Fletcher being proud to an extent, I guess. And I guess for this one moment of the movie, Andrew does regain control of his life. But I just don't think that he has won. I feel like that achievement for him, finally gaining Fletcher's approval, that's, big for him. But on the grand scheme of things, it's just minor. He's lost his girlfriend. He's essentially lost any sign of sanity. I think that this movie genuinely is amazing. There's probably a lot more I could have said, but these episodes are just me rambling about the movies, the music, the media that I enjoy. Since it is a movie that has music at its core, you'd expect it to have a good soundtrack, and yes, this soundtrack is very, very good. But yeah, those are just my thoughts on this movie. I'm hoping to get more sort of movie reviews / discussions out soon, so we can finally show a variety on this podcast. But if you do want to keep up with the podcast, we are at PitMix Podcast on Instagram and Twitter. You can also listen to this podcast on Spotify and YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, the Spotify link will be in the description, along with any other podcasting platforms available. Until next time, goodbye.